Medville was once a united kingdom of green fields where the sun rose gently over endless meadows and the laughter of children echoed through the valleys. Its tall mountains stood as silent guardians watching over villages where people toiled with pride and found joy in simple things. But a shadow crept in when the wise old king died without naming an heir, leaving the realm uncertain and vulnerable. His sons, Alaric and Valerius, both claimed the throne, each believing destiny favored them. Alaric the elder stood for tradition and honor, vowing to protect the customs that had shaped Medville for generations. Valerius, younger and fiercely ambitious, promised glory and change, inspiring those who longed for a new era. The royal council was split, unable to choose between them, their debates growing more heated with each passing day. Lords rallied behind their chosen prince, and the kingdom fractured as old alliances crumbled and new ones formed overnight. Tension thickened, war became inevitable, and the air was heavy with fear and anticipation. The ancient crown of elders vanished from the royal vault, sparking accusations and deepening the rift between brothers. Alaric blamed Valerius' supporters for treason, convinced they sought to steal not just the crown, but the very soul of Medville. Valerius claimed Alaric staged the theft to frame him, fueling suspicion and outrage among his followers. Words failed. Banners rose, swords were drawn, and the drums of war began to beat. The Medville War began not just for a crown, but for the soul of the kingdom, as families and friends found themselves on opposite sides. Brothers became enemies, and the land braced for conflict, knowing that peace would not return easily. The war would sweep from southern plains to northern peaks, demanding everything from its people: sacrifice, loyalty, and hope. Hardship and loss would test their courage and loyalty, as villages burned and families mourned. New borders would be drawn, and old wounds would deepen, leaving scars that would last for generations. The people of Medville faced a storm that would change them forever, their lives upended by forces beyond their control. This was a battle for survival, for identity, and for the future, a struggle that would define Medville for centuries to come. The world would soon witness the cost of a kingdom divided, as the land itself seemed to cry out in pain. The first drums of war echoed across the land, calling every man, woman, and child to choose a side. Medville's fate now hung in the balance, teetering between ruin and rebirth. The age of peace was over, and the silence of the past was shattered by the march of armies. The age of war had begun, and Medville would never be the same again. King Alaric was duty-bound, a monarch whose every action was guided by a deep sense of responsibility to his people and his ancestors. He wore the crown not for glory, but as a solemn promise to uphold the legacy of his forebears and protect the realm entrusted to him. A leader shaped by honor and tradition, Alaric believed that true strength came from unity and unwavering principles. His presence commanded respect, not through fear, but through the quiet dignity of a ruler who put his kingdom before himself. His royal guard saw him as a father, and he led by example, training, eating, and fighting alongside his men. Alaric's willingness to share in their hardships forged a bond of loyalty that could not be broken, even in the darkest times. Alaric's strength was his steady resolve and the loyalty he inspired. His men would follow him into the jaws of danger, trusting in his wisdom and steadfast heart. In contrast, Valerius was a force of ambition and charisma, a man who saw the world not as it was, but as it could be remade by his will. He was magnetic, drawing followers with grand visions and the promise of a new order. His volcanic legion followed him for promises of power and a new era. They were united not by tradition, but by the hope of change and the thrill of conquest. Valerius was a master strategist, always thinking ahead and unafraid to take risks. He relished the challenge of outwitting his enemies, turning the tide of battle with cunning and bold maneuvers. Alaric's army was a shield, disciplined, defensive, and unbreakable. Their formations were legendary, their discipline unmatched, and their resolve unwavering in the face of chaos. His knights, the best in the land, held the line with unwavering discipline. They were the bulwark upon which the hopes of the kingdom rested, standing firm against any threat. Alaric fought cautiously, valuing his soldiers' lives above all else. Every decision was weighed with care, for he knew that each life lost was a blow to the heart of his kingdom. Valerius's army was a spear, fast, aggressive, and unpredictable. They struck with the force of a tempest, overwhelming their foes before they could react. His troops struck quickly, using surprise and unconventional tactics. Valerius encouraged innovation and rewarded those who dared to defy expectations on the battlefield. He led from the front, inspiring boldness in his followers. His courage was infectious, pushing his warriors to feats of daring that became legend. The two brothers embodied opposing philosophies: tradition versus ambition, defense versus attack. Their rivalry was more than personal. It was a clash of ideals that would shape the destiny of their world. Their armies reflected their natures, one a fortress, the other a storm. The battlefield became a stage for their contrasting visions, each side determined to prove the worth of its cause. The stage was set for a clash that would decide Medville's fate. As dawn broke, tension hung heavy in the air, and every soldier knew history was about to be written. The kingdom braced for a war of ideals as much as armies. Villagers whispered prayers, families clung to hope, and the land itself seemed to hold its breath. The first true test of their leadership was about to begin. Both Alaric and Valerius knew that only one vision could prevail, and the cost would be measured in blood and sacrifice. Medville would never be the same. The outcome of this conflict would echo through generations, forever altering the fate of the kingdom and its people. The first great clash erupted on the Whispering Plains, a place where the wind carried the distant echoes of ancient conflicts and the grass whispered secrets of battles long past. This vast rolling field was chosen by Alaric for its strategic advantage, offering clear sightlines and room to maneuver, but also nowhere to hide. Alaric's forces formed a solid wall, spearmen braced at the center, archers poised on the flanks, and his elite knights waiting in reserve, their armor gleaming in the morning sun. Valerius arrived soon after, surveying the field with a keen eye, instantly recognizing that a direct assault would be disastrous against such a disciplined formation. Instead, he sent his swiftest horsemen to harass Alaric's flanks, their arrows whistling through the air as they struck and retreated before the royal guard could respond. The skirmishes were relentless, a constant barrage designed to provoke Alaric into breaking formation and to test the discipline of his men. Alaric's commanders, anxious and eager for glory, urged him to attack, but he held firm, sensing a trap behind Valerius's tactics. Frustrated by Alaric's patience, Valerius finally committed his main infantry, sending wave after wave of soldiers across the open field. The ground shook as thousands advanced, their war cries rising in a deafening chorus, the clash of steel echoing across the plains. As the armies collided in a storm of chaos and fury, Alaric unleashed his heavy cavalry in a surprise flank attack, catching Valerius's men off guard. The thunderous charge shattered Valerius's reserves, sending shockwaves through his ranks and throwing his army into utter chaos. Valerius managed to escape with many of his men, but the day and the honor of victory belonged to Alaric and his disciplined host. Discipline and patience had triumphed over reckless aggression, proving the value of strategy over brute force. The victory gave Alaric hope and renewed determination, but he knew deep down that the war was far from over and greater challenges lay ahead. Both sides learned hard lessons that day, about courage, about loss, and about the true cost of ambition. The fields ran red with the blood of the fallen, and the cost of war became painfully clear to all who survived. Medville's fate would be decided by more than just one battle. The struggle for the kingdom's soul was only beginning. As dawn broke over the battered plains, both armies steeled themselves for the long and uncertain road ahead. The struggle had only begun. In war, heroes are forged in fire. Ilara, a young archer for Alaric, held a crumbling tower alone at Riverbend, buying time for her comrades. On Valerius's side, Borin the blacksmith became a legend, wielding his warhammer to save his unit from encirclement. Sir Cailan, Alaric's wise knight, risked everything to deliver a secret message through enemy lines, changing the course of a campaign. These stories spread through camps, inspiring hope and courage. The war was not just about kings, but about ordinary people rising to greatness. Their bravery gave meaning to the struggle. Around campfires, their tales reminded soldiers what they fought for. In the darkest times, heroism shone brightest. The spirit of Medville endured through its peoples. Defeated at Whispering Plains, Valerius knew he needed a bold move. He led his army through the deadly Dragon's Tooth Mountains in winter, a feat thought impossible. The journey was brutal, many perished from cold and hunger. Valerius shared every hardship, his will driving the survivors onward. Emerging from the mountains, his army struck the unguarded western provinces. Towns fell in rapid succession, panic spreading through Alaric's lands. Alaric was forced to split his forces, weakening his main front. Valerius's gamble paid off, shifting the momentum of the war. The conflict now raged on multiple fronts. Boldness and imagination had changed the game. Alaric was forced onto the defensive. The war's outcome was suddenly uncertain. Medville trembled as the balance of power shifted. The Medville War's true cost was borne by its people. With men at war, women, children, and elders struggled to keep farms alive. Armies trampled fields, leaving hunger and ruin. Roads became dangerous, villages isolated, and news scarce. Refugees fled advancing armies seeking shelter wherever they could. Disease and starvation haunted the displaced, yet communities banded together, sharing what little they had. Secret networks formed to help those in need. Amid destruction, acts of kindness and resilience shone. The people's spirit refused to break. They endured, determined to survive and rebuild. The war changed them, but did not destroy them. Medville's heart beat on, even in its darkest hour. Years of war led to a brutal stalemate. The turning point came at Silver Peak, a fortress guarding the main northern pass. Valerius needed it to win. He began a relentless siege. General Marcus, loyal to Alaric, led the defense with unwavering resolve. The siege dragged on, catapults battered walls, defenders rationed food, and hope faded. Valerius grew desperate and sent elite climbers up a sheer cliff during a storm. Against all odds, they breached the fortress, opening a gate for Valerius's troops. Fierce fighting erupted inside Silver Peak's walls. By dawn, the Volcanic Legion's banner flew over the fortress. The path south was open. Alaric's last stronghold had fallen. The war's end drew near. Medville braced for its final reckoning. The fate of the kingdom would soon be decided. The fall of Silver Peak shattered Alaric's hopes. Valerius's army marched on the capital. Alaric prepared for a final stand. The last battle was brutal, both armies exhausted and desperate. In the chaos, the brothers faced each other at the heart of the fight. They dueled. Alaric's strength against Valerius's speed. The war's story played out in their clash: tradition versus ambition, honor versus ruthlessness. Both were wounded, driven by hatred and sorrow. In a crucial moment, Alaric hesitated, remembering their shared past. Valerius seized the chance, striking the fatal blow. Alaric fell and the battlefield fell silent. The royal guard's will broke. The war was over. Valerius stood victorious, but at a terrible cost. The kingdom was his, but it lay in ruins. The brothers' feud had ended in tragedy. Medville's future was uncertain. The age of kings had changed forever. With Alaric gone, Valerius claimed the throne, but his victory was hollow. The kingdom was scarred, its people weary and fearful. Valerius worked to unite Medville, pardoning enemies and rebuilding what war had destroyed. He focused on healing, not conquest, and reformed the laws to prevent future succession crises. The Medville War left deep wounds, but also hard lessons. The story of two brothers became a warning for generations. Heroes like Alara and Borin were remembered in song. The battles were studied, the scars never forgotten. Valerius was remembered as both conqueror and restorer. Medville survived its darkest hour, forever changed. The kingdom was forged anew from the ashes of war. Unity was hard won, but enduring. The legend of Medville lived on, a tale of ambition, sacrifice, and hope.